Hello and welcome to something entirely new to this channel. In this series, I'll use my observation skills to see what made a game successful or not. I'll call this series why it was successful and why it failed. I'll make a title card later. Anyway, these games are not the obvious ones either. No Call of Duties or Final Fantasies here unless you really want them to be here. Instead, I will choose from the not-so-popular games. Don't worry, I'm not pulling any skeletons out of the closet. These games are the variety that some people may know, or plenty of people may know, but not everyone has played. That's the reason for this series, to find out why it did unusually well, or why it did so poor when it had everything going for it. This won't be a review of these games, oh no. These are analysis videos. My word to mouth to you is to watch the video and decide if the game is right for you or not. Anyway, enough lollygagging. The first game on the list is Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight. What a great game, plenty of you will say. Some others will say it's a new timeless classic. A shining example of what a Kickstarter game should be, and what it could be. With tight controls, a heartfelt story, awesome level design, and free DLC. That's a true rarity these days, but wait. I think I discussed some already speaking up. Shovel Knight is a popular game. Well, you're right, and you're wrong on that notion. It may be a popular game, but ask anyone why they like it, and you'll get, "This Shovel Knight reminds me of such and such," and probably 100 games in between that. The short of it is, there's too many answers out there for people to come to a consensus on what the game reminds them of. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's begin. In the beginning, the lands were untamed. Plenty of treasure, caves to splunk, villains to put down. But two heroes were mightier than them all. Were named oddly Shovel Knight and Shield Knight. Hey, you have the same initials, SK. Well, that would cause some inventory issues. Anyway, back on track. With Shovel Knight's raw power and Shield Knight's amazing defense that she could endure any attack, together they thought themselves invincible. But a trip to the Tower of Fate proved them wrong. In the ensuing battle, Shovel Knight lost Shield Knight. With the loss of a friend, Shield Knight was crestfallen and swore to a life of a simpler nature as a farmer, while still wearing his armor, to never again quest an adventure. As time passed, a sinister group appeared, and the Order of No Quarters, what they called themselves, a collection of knights, both heroic in origin and evil ones, and everything in between. With no champion to stop their influence to spread like a wildfire, all thanks to their mysterious leader, the Enchantress, spreading her evil plans across the land, all from the Tower of Fate. With this information in hand, Shovel Knight could sit no longer on the sidelines. He intends to both free the land from the Order of No Quarter, and to march into the Tower of Fate to find out the fate of Shield Knight, his dear friend. Now, the game has a simpler premise to find out what happened to Shield Knight while saving the land. But I love this. Our prime incentive kicks in just after the first level. With the end of each level, Shield Knight goes to a dream cycle. And what happens in his dream is brilliant. Without any words spoken by Shovel Knight at all, we can see that he loves Shield Knight. All from this little mini-game, which has a simple objective of simply catching her. Shovel Knight at first gives most older gamers a weird feeling. At first we think it's nostalgia, but it quickly becomes confusing, because it doesn't play like any particular game until we realize it handles like many retro games. and does it correctly, which is a rarity these days. Not just the control feels nostalgic, but so does the level layout. Taking a note from many beloved games like Mario, Mega Man, Ninja Gaiden, just to name a couple, but this game draws from so much more. Shovel Knight's basic abilities are both believable and not so much. This shovel does what you expect it to do. Dig up the earth? Check. Strike enemies? Check. And you can bounce on things with it? Okay, now we're getting a little weird with it. Objects and enemies alike can be bounced on. If it didn't suit your fancy, you can also use magical items to make the trek even easier. A very well done part of this game is the first level. After all, first impressions are the most important. So with the first level, it must teach you how to play the game. Okay, so the person who instructs you is, well, nobody. Not even a narrator. That's because the level itself teaches you, by setting in particular obstacles, forcing you to perform the action required to advance. Luckily, the controls are simple. Where so many other games screw up the tutorial level, Shovel Knight did it right. After making your way through the stage of obstacles, treasure, and enemies, you'll arrive at the boss room, where a witty conversation will commence and the stage is done. Just kidding, you totally gotta kill the cat, but not really. Each boss has its own personality and a fight style to match it. Such as Plague Knight, who uses tricks and illusions and bombs, or Mole Knight, who digs into the earth to both attack and evade you. With a stage theme to boot, each contains treasure, weapons to use and master. And after you rape and pillage the enemy countryside, you can take your spoils to the village. You can spend on upgrades to your armor, shovel, health, magic, and plenty more. It's public knowledge that Shovel Knight was kickstarted, but with just a goal of $75,000 for the pitch. But when the donation period was done on April 13th, 2013, they successfully raised $311,000. Wow, gotta double take on that one from our research. With almost 15,000 backers. That is quite a feat. Like, wow. With all their stretch goals like free DLC were met, Yacht Club knew they had a game to make. Funny thing about the Kickstarter, it's a wildcard factor. If you pledge money to an idea, you never know if the product will ever see the light of day. Which is the reason why Kickstarter games has fell out of popularity in recent years. With so many bad eggs cracking, Shovel Knight was before all that drama, of course. For many, Shovel Knight was the first game they heard of when it came to Kickstarter. And the ability to crowdsource video games and other ideas. Times are really different a decade ago. Well, it's not really a decade ago, but only a few years. So with roughly $300,000 in the bank in the war chest, and it was all seeded away and ready to be used, but who will use it effectively? I believe I'm going to say this right. Sean Veserigal. Do you know the name? I probably pronounced it wrong. But then again, even if I did pronounce it right, not many people do before Shovel Knight. Sean's resume has very few games on it, most of it being in a director's chair, but the games like Blood Rain Betrayal and Double Dragon Neon and Batman Brave the Bold being the biggest games on that list, all as a running theme is kind of like their grade B games. A bit mediocre. Not horrible, mind you. No, don't go like that. I know about the sales they're impressive, were good enough. That's pretty much all it was. But keep in mind, Shovel Knight was his first published game. With that taken into account, would you pledge towards this game? Still be as hopeful as it was when this game saw the light of day? Maybe so, maybe not. But what is about this game that got people to shell cash for it? The answer is nostalgia, Kickstarter's greatest weapon. But something is off here, because the problem with nostalgia is it's a whole new IP. How does this make sense then? Well, there's a reason there are so many answers of what reminds us of what this game reminds us of. And it takes the best feature from so many of our beloved games. A trick that so many other games try to do and miserably fail. So, let's break it down, shall we? Let's start with graphics. What do you think of that? What do you think? Give me a look. Think that's weird? Talking about graphics in an 8-bit game? It's actually important. It's gotta look right. Because if you had a few pixels more, it'll be just another retro game. Anyhow, at first you may think the graphics look a whole lot the same as it did in the old day. But hold on there, young buck. Back in my day, games looked like this. And Shovel Knight looks like this. It's called effort, and lots of it was put in. They even used the NES limitations when planning the pixel measurements, such as only having so many in one given screen, so many colors in one given screen. It's the bridge between a classic and modern graphics. It's actually quite difficult to put in your head, but to wrap your head around. But enough about graphics, let's talk about the controls. To fix the game, well, when you boot up the game and get playing, you notice right away that Shovel Knight handles like a tank, and jumps like one, and drops like one too. This type of game physics is also part of the old gaming. For more difficult NES games, most were in the part to the tank, like controls. So players like me, we felt right at home. So with that out of the way, next up is music. And some of you probably don't even think about the music of video games you play these days. But with all the distractions, guns, blinking lights, achievements. But back then, it needed to be up to par with everything else in the game. But that was easier said than done. The NES had a basic sound system that could only take a note per second, and that's why NES music was so distinctive. But let's not get off track here. Shovel Knight does this, but does not use the original sound system, not at all. Shovel Knight has written its own use of the VR6 sound chip, which is used in the old NES, but well, not really, but it's a kind of different version of it. But this adds 3 additional audio channels to the NES sound system. So close enough for the creation of an NES game. Lastly, let's talk about the level layout. After all, you can only see one screen at a time, so it has to be good and entertaining. We said that Yakuza games took an inspiration from many different sources, but they all follow a similar pattern of a level simply getting as hard as you progress through it. The trope that we use in very many games today. But NES good games had a bit tougher. There's a fine line between playful pay through an NES game and hard difficulty. Luckily, Shovel Knight found that balance. With the element of bouncing on enemies they use as a basic control, they shaped their entire game around the whole thing, from puzzles to boss fights. Speaking of which, let's segue into that. No surprise where the pattern emerges from. It's clearly Mega Man. From fancy movesets to intros, it's just one of the things I love about this game. Now before we get to the conclusion, maybe I can't answer all the things it could possibly remind us of. God, there's too many of them. I've only asked a few handful of people and got over 40 titles with those people alone. But let's go over the most broadest ones that are common. The general layout shape is very reminiscent of Castlevania, and how it uses both horizontal and vertical scrolling, as well as having hidden items and walls. This can be easily seen. The bosses are very reminiscent of Mega Man. I don't think I need anyone to really tell anyone that one, that's obvious. The overworld map, another obvious one, is a nod to Super Mario Bros. 3 and their overworld map. And then we already have Legend of Zelda 2 Link's Adventure for the towns that you can walk into, and, you know, horizontal scrolling and whatnot. And then, various combat-wise, we got DuckTales for combat. For how he performed his moves. I didn't actually play DuckTales very much, but I do know the combat, how it's simply bounce on enemies and to whack them with your cane. These are only the most basic of what people immediately think, but there's easily a lot more. Some people think it's Adventure Island. Some think it's even inspired a little bit by Sonic, although that's a bit of a stretch. But hey, what does inspire you? Feel free to tell me in the comments. But anyway, let's get on to the conclusion. So let's recap. Shovel Knight is a game Kickstarter with overwhelming support from the public. A director with no AAA experience under his belt, combining old NES graphics with modern style. Music that puts a twist on the old NES music chip. Controls that fit a game and make it feel old school. And that tried, true, and classic feel of level design. With all this in mind, we can see that Yacht Club Games almost made all the stops to create this game. And the stops they didn't make, because the game is better for it. It's clear that people are in love with this game, myself included. From the big to the small, took the very best elements from the games from the past, not to copy them, but to make them better. I like to think they succeeded too, in doing just that. And with more free DLC on the way, we can enjoy Shovel Knight for a while to come. With the overwhelming support for this game, I have no doubt people will be talking about this game for many years to come. I'd like to say it right here, right now, this game easily fits into the 8-bit Hall of Fame, as proof that 8-bit gaming will never die. My name is ST. I'd like to thank you for your time in watching this. Don't worry, this is just a positive episode. Next episode, I'll look at something a little more negative. Till next time, take care out there, and thank you for watching.